Hi, I'm Jackson, and I'm the director of Acquired Invisible. CJ, who is in the film and produced the film, and I are we're honoured and chuffed, and this is an amazing thing that our documentary has won best short documentary, and that I won best director. Our documentary is a very personal piece, which you're going to find out more about in a moment, but it's a very personal piece, and so we want to thank Angeli's Documentaries for showing the documentary and helping our film find its audience. There are so many people walking out there with invisible disabilities, and we don't know. We don't know unless you're living in the house with that person, or you're a friend and you happen to go shopping. You just don't see it, and that's the point. So we're hoping this film raises questions and raises ideas in people's mind and spurs a few into action. How did you meet with and learn about CJ? Well, this is why it's a personal story. CJ and I are married. It was 5 months into our relationship, so not even really out of the honeymoon stage, when CJ's disability showed up. I don't know exactly when we decided that we were going to film this process and document it and turn it into a documentary. It was something that was always sort of ticking over in our minds, but to be honest, we were both dealing with what had happened and what was about to happen, that a firm idea about the documentary didn't surface until much later. But we were filming things along the way, just in case. The angle of invisible disability is very original and specific. Did you decide to tell that story based on CJ was sharing her feelings? Yes. I mean, this was and is CJ's baby. She never knew that she wanted to make this film, obviously. Before the disability showed up, she's actively engaged in the circus community and creating acts and so that was where she was focused, plus her other career as a doctor, which is still going on today. Yes, it was based on her telling her own feelings, and then there's also something she pointed out to me. It's also about me telling my own. I'd never thought about the place that a carer has in this and what a carer goes through. I've never had to be a carer. My family, if we got a cut, I've got a scar on my leg. It's about that big and about that deep. It's where a BMX pedal dug into my leg when I was BMX racing. And I rode home with my dad, which was about a 5 or 6 kilometre ride, still bleeding everywhere. I was about 9 or 10, 9. And then we got back home and he patched it up with water and some Band-Aids. So that was the level of care that I grew up with. Nothing against them. They just didn't know any better. My parents didn't know any better. So I wasn't used to being a carer. And all of a sudden now I was. And really until this moment I haven't really thought about that journey. That might be another film altogether. So yeah, there were CJ's feelings and then there were my own. Did you film CJ's interview first or last? All right, well, this goes with a little bit of a story. We had filmed all the elements previous to us deciding we have to make the documentary. She was speaking to a director of a festival, and at this point we decided, we're going to make the film. And the director of this festival said, I'd love to watch it, and it will be available soon. And CJ was like, well, we're sort of in the early stages of creation of it. And he said, well, I need to see it by next Friday. And that was 7 days from when he said. And so CJ came home and said, look, this art director or the director of a festival wants to see our film, but we haven't shot, all the pieces yet. We're not going to get it done. Now, I work in news editing and I've been doing it for a while, and I just knew that I could put the film together at the quality that we wanted to very quickly, because it's what I do on a daily basis, or whenever I'm there, that's what I do. And I said, no, we can. So the next day, being Saturday, we filmed the interview. So the answer to that question is, we filmed CJ last, but wow, there was so much more after that. Anyway, that's the basic answer to the question. Your documentary shows and tells how on an average day we judge people by what we see, what we perceive of them at first glance, and how we build our own opinion of others based on an image, a flare. Was it a topic you were sensitive to before making this documentary? CJ always was, even before she acquired her own disability, because that is the way that she sees people and sees the world. So she's always been sensitive to this. Me, I was really not. By the time we filmed the documentary, which was years down the track from when the disability started, yes, I was quite aware of it. But when it first happened, which is sort of where this question sits as well, no, I was blind to it. Once I'd worked out what was going on, and the way that we judge, and I judged people based on what we saw, well, you don't look disabled. I probably wasn't that harsh. I never said that to anyone, and I don't think I really thought it. I'm just not that sort of person. But I certainly heard it from others, and I've gone, yeah, I can understand that. I can see how you would say that, and that's not to judge their position, because until you've experienced something like this, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't compute. An invisible disability. Well, if it's invisible, doesn't that mean it's not there at all? Do you hope/think the documentary can help some people open their eyes a little bit more? Well, I guess I just said that. Yes, I do. That's the reason for making the film. That is the sole reason for putting the film out there. I mean, the awards, yes. Grateful, yes. Honoured. And will I be, printing them and sticking them up on my wall? Yeah. I'm proud of what we've done from a filmmaking point of view. But ultimately, this is really about helping people understand that, invisible disabilities exist, and that there are probably people that that struggle, and you might not know that they have a disability, because most of the people I know who do struggle with this just get on with their day. Whether that's because they're just so used to people looking at them going, and they don't want to deal with that, or whether it's because they're just strong people and just like, oh well, that's happened, I guess I'm going to have to move on forwards, like CJ does, and there's many of those too. We are so glad that this film can shed light on all of those people, because they need a voice. Again, this is an important story to tell because of that. So yeah, we do hope it gets out there. We hope it continues to keep growing and keep gaining traction. And I'd love to hear someone talk about their friend with some sort of invisible disability, not knowing that I was involved in the film. That'd be just great. Let me see. The documentary has no voiceover and no other interview than CJ, yet it sounds like a dialogue with the viewers. Why do you think it works so well? Wow. You're right, there isn't a voiceover, but CJ's voice is the voiceover. It feels like we're in a conversation with her, but she is really just talking. And that's one of the great things about it. I couldn't make this style of documentary with just anyone. It does require a specific type of person who's able to do this. And she's very humble and, was very nervous coming up into it. So I just made sure I set the tone right, and then allowed her to speak and not ask many questions. And that decision to not ask many questions helped create this, how do you put it, dialogue? because it's like you're sitting in a conversation where someone is just talking and you just know not to speak, you just know to let them talk, and it's a very open position to be in as an audience member. It's a very personal, intimate subject, yes. Yet your documentary is more relatable than many others that tackle more general topics. Why do you think that is? That's actually a tough question to answer, because for me to say it's more relatable, I'm not sure what objective value I can apply to that in such a subjective field that filmmaking is. Yeah, it's hard for me to judge that. But if it is more relatable, it works again just because of the connection between CJ and the audience, and the non-interference, and even all the B-roll that I decided to put in there was purely in there because it emphasised and expressed the point that was being said, and no more. And I really tried to be efficient with what I chose and the reasons why I chose it. So much footage was dropped to the floor because it was like it's clouding the vision, it's clouding the invisibility, and it just needs to go. I tried really hard to make sure that nothing got in the way, and judging from the reactions and from these great questions, I think that I managed to make sure that nothing got in the way between you guys and CJ.